Hi friends, I'm Torit Mahato. You are watching Art and Purulia. In part 1 video of the stage 1 of this series, Watercolor for Beginners, we saw how to progressively lighten a color and painted some abstracts using warm and cool colors and also mixed them using wet on wet and wet on dry both methods. In the process, we also painted straight lines, curved lines, circles and triangles. In this video, we'll use the same knowledge but increase the difficulty level to create some complex curves using compound strokes. Before I start the compound strokes, let's understand the two main types of brushes based on shape, round and flat, and their mark making abilities. Round brushes are formed with a fatter collection of hair towards the metal ferrule, with the hairs tapering towards the tip, so that the brush, when wet, forms a point. A flat brush has a width that has range anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to 3 inch, and you can use the flat side to apply paint or use the chisel edge of the brush to make thin lines. Turned at an angle, the brush makes thick and thin calligraphic marks quite distinguishable from those made by a round brush. Brush strokes fall into two general categories: push strokes or pull strokes. Some involve using just the tip or the point or the edge of the brush, and others involve using the body or side of the brush. Variations in pressure, direction, arm, wrist, and finger movement, and paint load, that is, to distinguish between wet or dry brush, and whether or not the paper is dry, damp, or wet. All this determine how the stroke appears on the paper. You call a stroke pushed when you touch the paper with the brush closer to you and take it away as you paint. And you call it pulled when you start from top or away and bring the brush down or closer to you. A fully loaded brush versus one that is beginning to dry out makes a difference in the appearance of the tree as the brush is stroked on the paper. The body of the brush was used for the tree foliage and the point for the trunks and main branches, along with the small figure, fence and birds in the final illustration. Let's see the use of a round brush first. For painting large areas quickly or for graduated or graded washes, a big round brush size 14 to 20 or a flat brush of about 1 inch to 3 inch can be used. For creating thick or thin lines, just vary the pressure. Pulled strokes touch point to paper, then press the body of the brush to the paper, and then gradually increase pressure as you pull down. Push strokes start with point at bottom, that is towards you, and push the brush up or away with increased pressure in the middle of the stroke, then decrease again the pressure at the end of the stroke. The pushed lines, if you make a quick flip of your wrist at the end of the stroke, it will create a sword-like fine point which you can use for describing thick grass. You can also make nice dots by just touching the paper with a fully charged brush tip. You can use semi-dry brush and drag the body of the brush sideways across the paper for dry brush effects. A rough paper enhances this effect. Now let's see flat brush. If you make a stroke with a fully charged brush held with wide part flat on the paper, you will get a broad mark, but if you use the chiseled edge, it will result in a thin line. Now we'll see some marks that you can make using a flat brush. Wide part of the brush is held flat on the paper. If you stroke it downwards using the arm, moving from side to side with brush in the same position, you will get wavy motions. You can use the brush to stamp fine lines by using just the tip of the bristles. You can achieve various variations by changing amount of pressure on the brush. You can make different types of pulled strokes that achieve thick or thin variety by changing the amount of pressure and tilt on the brush. If the brush is rolled and tilted more during the stroke, you can make different types of patterns. If you separate the bristles of a damp brush by pressing slightly on the palette and then just touch the tips of the separated brush over the paper and pull across, you will get fine parallel lines that you can use for grass or hair. For dry brush effects, use a semi-dry brush and drag the body across the paper. A rough surface, of course, will enhance the effect. For fine lines, use just the tip, that is the chisel edge of the brush. The stroke should start closest to you and you should use your wrist to slightly roll the brush up and away from you to paint the trunk and the branches of the tree. The same stroke, but if you give a definite flip of your wrist at the end of the stroke, you will get a sharp line at the end. You can do scumbling by using a semi-dry brush to scrub paint in patchy or circular motion. You can use the effect for foliage or for trunks and branches. Compound strokes. Let's learn the S curve by illustrating stems and leaves. Practice compound brush strokes using pressure and release. The same way as we outlined the basic shapes, we'll paint C and S curves by using only arm and no wrist movement. Let's get started with basic C curve for a stem. Load up your size 5 or 6 brush with a mixture of burnt umber and a touch of black, making it a darker shade of burnt umber. Apply a little bit of pressure for the base of the stem, making it like a dot. Next, trace an arc or a C curve from left to right across your paper about 3 inches long. Now try C curves with a steeper arch or move the highest point of the curve to the right or left. Get used to how each variation feels by repeating a few times. Make sure to not curve your stem back around in a S curve. Just one arch per stem. Now that we have practiced stems using C curves, we are going to define the S curve with a compound brush stroke using two different types of strokes in one motion. In this case, a wide stroke using more pressure on the brush to fan out the hairs and a thinner stroke with less pressure. This will make a mark that goes from really wide at the base to a thinner tip with the outer edge of the stroke resembling an S curve. This compound stroke forms one half of a leaf. To practice this, mix up a green leafy color like sap green. Load up your brush with paint and hold it so the handle points towards where you want your leaf to point. Then place the brush tip on the paper and draw it across, starting with heavy pressure, then gradually releasing pressure as you draw it upward. Starting with pressure allows your brush to fan out, creating a wider base on the leaf. As you continue upward, releasing pressure, the leaf shape should slowly narrow to a point. With this compound stroke, you have created an S curve that, when you pair it with a second compound stroke, creates a basic leaf. To complete the leaf, you will repeat the compound stroke you just used to paint the first half of the leaf. Make sure to start and meet at the same point as you did with your first stroke. So it's an even S curve on both sides. Sometimes you can leave a gap in a leaf to create a natural highlight. Now we'll use curves to paint a stem and leaves with hue and values variation. We'll create a full stem and later a wreath. To start, use your size 6 brush or 5 to paint a stem in a C curve, then add miniature C curves as stems for the leaves you will add. Stagger the mini C curves along the larger stem, going back and forth on either side. Don't make this too long, as that would make your stem look sparse once you add leaves. Once you have painted all the stems, you will begin adding leaves. To create variety in the leaves, you can start with the darkest value of the green hue, then add water to lighten. As you work your way up the stem, you can mix up greens using sap green and Prussian blue, sap green and lemon yellow deep, and lighter values of both these mixtures. Subtle changes in hue and value from leaf to leaf along the stem will help create movement and depth of field. If all the leaves were of the same hue and value of green, it would look pretty flat and boring. Have fun and practice this technique with an individual stem a few times. In fact, you can use the same C and S curves to paint most of the leaves with a variation of degree of curvature and length of stroke. Now we'll create a wreath by sketching a light circle as a guide, then forming the wreath stem by stem. Follow the curve of your light circle sketch and feel free to overlap stems and leaves. You can alter the shade of the stems and leaves by adding a little black for a smokier look. Now let's see complex curves. We'll make a few types of leaves including peony, thyme, sage and eucalyptus varieties. This is a loose, more abstract style of painting as opposed to detailed and realistic. So for our colors, we'll mix up two hues per leaf that convey the essence of the particular leaf. Here are the swatches and the color formula that we'll be using. Green plus lemon yellow deep. Peony leaves use more yellow to accent with a brighter hue, the darker green for shadows. Then Prussian blue plus lemon yellow dip. Sage leaves. Lighten these mixtures with lot of water for a softer look. These are similar to the peony leaves, but because these herbs are more delicate, the hues are much lighter and the leaves are rounded, not pointed. Add a bit of texture or wave as you bring your brush up the side of the leaf. So it's not a smooth C or S curve. This will show that sage leaves have ripples. Then Prussian blue plus lemon yellow deep and mass black, a little touch of it. Thyme leaves. Same mixture as for sage, but with an added value of a deep dark green. Add black to the color to darken it. These are similar to the first leaves we practiced with groups of clusters forming sections up to the stem. Thyme leaves aren't very big, so use a small brush like size 2 brush to paint them. Then for eucalyptus leaves, we'll use phthalo turquoise and musk black. For a smokier look, use turquoise, black and lots of water to lighten the mixture. We'll use compound strokes as in the previous exercise, but wider at the middle of the leaves making more of an oval shape. You can let the leaves overlap because you are using the same hue throughout the stem. This won't cause muddy colors. Make sure to vary the lightness from leaf to leaf for a feeling of movement. Now, with all these exercises, we have seen several techniques and strokes. I am sure if you practice them enough, you will gain a lot of confidence and will be ready for the next stage, that is stage 2, wherein we will see how to create forms, apply the techniques of perspective and effects of light and shade. Till then, I am sure you have enough practice to do. Practice them, stay healthy and safe and happy. See you in the next stage.